Welcome to the Gottesdienst crowd, where we foster confessional integrity, liturgical preservation, and preaching that doesn't stink. We believe that the historic liturgy of the divine service is more than mere cobwebs of antiquity, but it is a true treasure of the Church, to be dusted off and brought down from her attic to be enjoyed. So let's get dusting.
Welcome back to the Gottesdienst crowd. This is Jason Broughton. Today we have back with us Dave Peterson. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you.
We are looking at the Gospel reading for the second Sunday after Epiphany. It comes from John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11?
Yes.
1 to 11. And I'll read that in the New King James. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Now there were set there 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the master of the feast." And they took it. When the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom. And he said to him, "Every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now." This beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. All right, so textually, what pops out in Greek?
I suppose this
translation issues, or
I don't think there's really
focus on, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real translation issues. I mean, the word sign. Of course, this is the first sign, or the beginning of the signs, or the ruling sign, right? And of course, that's a Johannine word that points to the divinity of Christ. It's used 5 times in. I picked this up from Harold Bull's commentary, or whatever those are called. What are those called? I had it here. It's called Exegetical Notes, Gospel Texts 1-Year Series, copyright 1988, from the print shop at the Fort Wayne Seminary.
Okay.
So 4 times that word sign is used. Here, the wedding at Cana, the second time at Cana for the second miracle, the healing, and then the feeding of the multitudes in John 6, and the raising of Lazarus. So those are the explicit signs. And then the 5th use is in chapter 20, when the appearance to the disciples seems to be a sign, because it says that he did this and many other signs.
Yeah.
So you've got those that use is kind of, that's a Greek word that's important in this text. I do think we've talked about this, so we don't need to belabor it, but I do think this is the defining miracle of Jesus' ministry, the beginning of his ministry, and the defining miracle of the Messianic age. So It does have a kind of import in its placement and in this title, and it's treated that way, by at least in the patristic literature.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about that before, that he is demonstrating himself to be the bridegroom spoken of by Isaiah and the prophets.
Yeah, and just establishing too that the order of creation is not being undone, right? He comes at a wedding and reveals himself, and he's here to restore families. So you've got the, the Malachi thing, turning the hearts of the fathers to the children. That's all connected here beautifully.
Yeah, and right after this, you have John the Baptist when he's speaking about Jesus' baptism and what he witnessed, says that, it's not right for the best man to point away from the bridegroom.
Yeah.
Right. And then that very next encounter is Jesus with the woman who has 5 husbands, or even his, you have had 5 husbands and the one you were with is not your husband. Right. So you have right upon each other, these indications that Jesus is stepping forward as the bridegroom.
Yeah. And restoring the proper order. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, that's a lesson for our age that probably didn't even need to be stated in the past. I mean, but now we just live with this kind of, feminist insanity of ultimate individualism and isolation that we have to. Right, he's not coming to make us all autonomous individuals. Mm-hmm. You've got that too. Psalm 78 it sets the solitary into families.
Right.
So all that kind of order stuff. There's Bulls pointed out in verse 11 the word for manifested, which is like pharuo or something. Mm-hmm. That's used 9 times in John. And it's always self-disclosure. Jesus manifests his glory, or shows, right, his glory. So in Epiphany, that's that funny of Epiphany is this word.
Yeah, I think it's from phanerao.
That's it. That's it. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I was trying to just do it from memory. I mean, I don't have the Greek word in front of me. I could, because I got the Bible open. But so that's I don't know. I didn't go through and look up all the references in John, but that would be a useful exercise, and I think could yield homiletical fruit. So here is first manifestation in the wedding. So there's something for that. Bulls does say, I remember this actually, but Bulls says that there's no way they were intoxicated at the feast. And he makes a good argument. That's in the mouth. That what he says in verse 10, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, and that word can mean intoxicated and probably does, then the inferior, that is, right, when their taste buds are numb and they're not going to appreciate good wine. Yeah. But he's not claiming that's what was going. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean this is exactly what had happened here.
Correct.
I mean, it could be kind of a general principle. However, when he says, you have kept the good wine until now, he seems to be indicating that the normal practice has been violated and reversed and is foolish. And it could well mean that, they have. But anyway.
So is this a sense in which this is a reestablishing of the order that has been practiced is wrong, and this is the proper practice?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Well, and I mean, I think, you shouldn't be getting intoxicated so that you can't appreciate good wine. So you should start with the good wine and stop with the good wine, right? But here, right, what you have is that they bring out the good wine for the sake of numbing your taste buds, that you might drink the inferior. Mm-hmm. And so when Jesus continues with good wine, in fact, he doesn't say that the wine is, so I always want this to be superior wine, but it doesn't actually say that, right? It just says he made water turns into wine, and the bridegroom just says, this is good wine that you kept until now, and you should have put it out at the beginning. He doesn't actually say that it's superior to the wine that was put out at the beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, the word is kalos, right? I mean, that whole, it's fitting. Yeah, it's the proper stuff. This is the stuff proper,
right?
That should be put out.
Right.
The other stuff is, again, once they're...
Yeah, the inferior. I'm saying that it could be let's just say it was, I don't know anything about wine. I don't really like wine. I don't know. So I don't even know what a good wine is. I barely even know the types of wine. Okay. But let's just say, I don't know, a Merlot, right? I've heard of that. So he puts out a great Merlot, vintage, 1982, beautiful wine. That's the good wine. And then he puts out the crappy wine from Costco, or Trader Joe's, right? And after they're numb, I mean, then he just says, "You've kept the good wine." I mean, it could be that Merlot again, is all I'm saying.
Well, anyway, I mean, it's still superior.
Superior to the inferior, but not necessarily superior to the original good wine.
But I mean, I think they're saying here that they put out inferior stuff first.
No, they're saying that he put out. He's saying you held back the good wine. I guess that's right, because he is saying. No, you're right. I'm sorry. That's right. He's saying this is good wine. You didn't put it out at the good wine time. That's right.
And so if they put out the good wine,
no, you're right.
This is
that's right.
Superior to that.
I take it all back. Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. I don't know what I was thinking.
So I think we're led to assume they put out the good wine first, because that's the order of things there.
Yes.
And Jesus is establishing a new order.
Yeah, so I think they put out what they thought was good wine, the best wine they had, and then they ran out of it, and they didn't have maybe any inferior wine to put out. They just had the wine they thought was good. And then Jesus turns water into wine, and then the master of the feast doesn't know that. He thinks, "What, you had this stuff all along? And you were holding out, and now it's going to be wasted on them." I mean, that's the gist of his complaint. So he's saying you reversed it. They didn't intend to reverse it. And I think that the point is that Jesus is saying, part of what he's saying is, you should never put out inferior wine.
What else does Bowles have to say?
He pointed out in about verse 6, where he says the purification rituals of the Jews, that this is an indication that John's writing to a Gentile audience. I don't know why I never thought about that before, but I think he's right. And I think I would say that it's not only I think this goes against the Weinrich thesis that John's gospel's first. I just don't like that idea at all, as much as I love that
Weinrich
commentary.
Say that?
Yes, he does. It's ridiculous. It's a terrible argument. I think he's completely wrong on it. I love that commentary and I love him, but I don't know why. So here anyway, right?
It seems like every commentator on a gospel says theirs is first.
Yes. I think this is. I hate to say this. Hopefully, he doesn't hear this, but I think he just got a little bit influenced somehow by the sort of rivalry between gospel commentators. That whichever one you're writing on has to be the best. Look, Bill, you're writing on John. You already got the best one. You don't need to say it was first. Anyway,
maybe he means first as in chief.
That's not what the archaeus gospel. So I think Bowles is right. He is probably writing to an audience. I mean, John is expecting that not only are they maybe Gentiles ethnically, but they're also, this is probably 50 or 60 years after the resurrection, or maybe not, but it's later, and there's distance, and the church isn't even maybe so much even headquartered in Jerusalem anymore. So,
yeah, because John dies in 99 or.
Yeah, I like the idea. Weinrich could really hate this, and I don't have any scholarly evidence, so this is just completely, I shouldn't even say it, but I will anyway. I like the idea that this is actually the last thing that John writes, that he writes his gospel from Patmos, after he's already written the Revelation and his epistles, and that I think that just colors everything in the gospel so richly, like especially at the end with the stuff with Peter. When John is almost kind of defending himself, like, look, he didn't say I'm not going to die. I'm going to die. I want to die. I'm sad I wasn't martyred like my brothers, and I want to go be with them.
Yeah.
Right. So there's he is there in his own, the cross that he's bearing. And I think that, that whole thing, and also the prophecy, then when he records the prophecy about Peter, another will take you and dress you. And right. And I mean, that's actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, So
I want it to be before 70,
yeah, okay, it could be.
but
It totally
that's
could
just
be.
because I don't want all of these things to be ex post facto.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, that would be the problem too, even with the prophecy of Peter's death. But I mean, just because he writes it, it was told to him before it happened. Just because he wrote it later doesn't mean.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, I think we're too sensitive because of the stupid higher critics. So the thing is like, if he's like, oh yeah, if John is like, you know what, we were told beforehand how Peter would die, and so here's the prophecy, and like as he's writing it, he knows it is actually already come fulfilled. That doesn't make it less, but we're so sensitive because of the higher critics that we can't stand that, because that makes it seem like it wasn't really a prophecy. They made it. They're just lying, right? I mean, that's the higher critics' idea. Well, of course. Everything they say that was going to happen and then happened, it was because they said it, they pretended, they predated it to make it look authoritative because they're liars. But that's such a malicious interpretation. I mean, anyway, I enjoyed reading through Bull's notes. I hadn't done that in a very long time.
So which of his discussions here do you think are served for good homiletical, just the phanerao stuff, or other stuff as well?
I think
Does he talk about the kalos?
No, so his notes are really just to help you use the Greek. So it's not a full commentary. He's just pointing out grammatical things, a few grammatical things, a few vocab things. They're very brief. They're very it's very nice, and but it's not. Yeah, but I would say that the phanerao, however you say that, that would be worthwhile as a homiletical thing. Probably not much else.
I don't know why I've never noticed that the word for the good wine is kalos.
Oh, I think we've talked about that.
Have we really?
Yeah, I think so. I'd be surprised if we didn't. I'm sort of obsessed with the word kalos.
Well, I mean, but it's such a rich word for
it is
the ordering and all of that.
Well, and I like the word. I like the translation also beautiful for kalos sometimes, and the good, the true, the beautiful, the sort of tying of this together. This is beautiful wine in every sense of the word. In its right, it's in its excellence, not just to look at, but I mean, there's again, and fitting, as you said. I love that too. This is actually the most wine there's ever been. This is the purest wine in a sense, right? Because Luther had something that, and when you were reading it, it struck me about the put the water into the water pots, and I don't know how I never thought about that before. That's like that he's obeying the law to the letter with that. Right. It's not put wine in the water pots. It's or put something else in or even, just don't do anything to the water pots and I will fill them. But the water pots are for water. That's the law. That's their purpose. And it's being fulfilled completely according to the letter of the law.
To the brim.
To the brim. And then, I never thought about, it never struck me before. He could have just said, fill the water pots. Obviously, with water, what else would you fill them with? Right? I mean, you wouldn't have that much liquid of any other sort anyway laying around. You wouldn't have that much wine or oil in your house. It's a ton of, right? But I wonder if there isn't some kind of emphasis there. That this is the.
Do you remember the math on that?
I've done that so many times. I should know. It's, a 750 milliliter is about a half gallon, right? So 20 to 30. Well, so wait a minute. I can't remember. Because does he give it to us? We have it in the translation in gallons, right? Where did I make up the gallon thing? 20 to 30
Each one
gallons.
Holding 20 gallons, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's right. So if you go 20 gallons of wine is like 40 bottles. At 40 to 60, I think it's so you got, let's just say they're 50, and then there's that's 300 bottles of wine. That's a lot of wine.
Yeah, especially since Like Luther makes a big deal that this is a small wedding.
I know. Well, I think he just assumes it's small because we don't know where it is. I mean, it's not a significant village, but I don't think there's anything textually to think that it's small. And just, Luther's idea that they're not fancy people, if they've got Mary running stuff, which she seems to be, and she's this poor girl, then they can't be rich. But he doesn't have any text. There's no textual reason, right? I mean, there might be implications in the things I just said, but I don't think there's any textual reason that you'd have to say this is a small wedding.
Well, so Luther, in his sermon, says that Mary is acting as the mother of the bride.
Oh, okay.
And, well, I just am curious, like, teasing that out. So if Jesus is stepping forward as the bridegroom, do your director cut thing.
Right.
So if Mary's the mother acting as the mother of the bride, how does this all play out? Like, just imagining what this looks like. So if she's kind of being the wedding planner,
right,
and trying to make all things, is his hesitancy is because his hour hasn't come. But is there a sense in which he's like, it's not right for me to take this away from the bridegroom? Is there some of that too? I mean, he doesn't say that.
No. Yeah, I don't like that. I think it's just a test. I think it's a test just perfectly parallel to the Syrophoenician woman.
Yeah.
It's not, he doesn't really mean what he says. He knows her concern has everything to do with him, right? Mm-hmm. And she has every right to bring things to him in prayer, even trivial requests.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that he really means it. I mean, in the sense that also, like, he doesn't mean when he was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, or it's not right to give the children's bread to the dogs. He doesn't really mean it. It's actually a test to strengthen her faith. Now, it's true that his hour hasn't yet come, but I don't think that he's hesitant to step in, or that it has anything to do with the bride. There is this, it is sort of a funny thing in that, so let's say she has a legitimate role here, that she's responsible for this wedding, and she's embarrassed, whether it's because of her own failure to provide enough wine, or because of the poverty of the people that they couldn't afford the wine, and that's embarrassing now, or if they failed in some way. But so if she comes to him because she's embarrassed, but the thing is that she wants him to do something about it, and it is an incredibly trivial request. Mm-hmm. They've had wine. Nobody needs more wine. And, is there something in this where, like, she wants him to perform a that's sort of inappropriate? Like, look, I didn't come here I'm not a magician, you know? I'm not here to do
not
party
your bread king or your wine king.
Right. I mean, there could be a kind of rebuke in it also that at least I think would have created some doubt and uncertainty in her and some pain, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even the title woman's, it's distancing. So, and then for him to say, my hour has not yet come. I mean, the implication is I didn't come I came to die. I got real work to do. I didn't come for feasting. But of course he did. So that's the, right? That's the sort of great thing that I think, she clings to. Like the Syrophoenician woman, it's like, well, fine, I don't want the children's bread. I'll just take your crumbs. No, I don't take anything from anyone else, right? I'll be a dog as long as you're the one feeding me. And you're right. It'd be wrong for me to take the bread away from some one of your children, but I don't want that. And I think, here there is this kind of clinging. Okay, you're right. You can't, obviously, your glory is your self-giving on the cross. That's what you came for. That's what really matters. But you did come for feasting. And you did come for this stuff. And I'm just going to walk away and let you think about that. And I'm just going to tell the servants to do whatever you tell. And, who knows? I mean, I've often, when I preached about this, I always love to sort of speculate. What does she expect him to do at this point? Whatever he says, you do it. I don't think she knows.
No.
Luther
waxes eloquent on this in his sermon, and just in terms of like how good she thinks Jesus is.
Right.
Like she has this unflinching faith of Jesus's goodness.
Right. Whatever he does will be good.
Whatever he's doing, it's going to be great.
Yeah. And, maybe it's going to be, knock over the water jars and turn over the tables and tell these people to get out there drunk. If that's what he does, then that's what's, he's going to do what is appropriate, what is kalos. He's going to do what's good. And we're going to, even if it's rebuke me, even if it's call me a dog, even if it's send us all home, I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but I know that he's good. And his hour has not yet come in terms of his crucifixion, but the Lamb of God is with us, right? He is Emmanuel. Salvation is being won, or creation is being reordered, right? Everything is. He is the kalos shepherd. So all that, I think, it's a remarkable confession on her part. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's thinking though that he's going. I don't think the problem with her concern is that she's trying to get him to act as the bridegroom.
No. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think his concern is then?
Well, I mean, it's her concern that, what he's saying that her concerns are somehow inappropriate. And
yeah, I know, but how does he end up justifying this in his head? Like, okay, Mom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
like,
I think
so. What's that internal conversation? Obviously, this is all speculative, but what's that internal conversation where it's like, okay, I think I can make this work and make this happen.
Yeah,
it still is doing what it needs to do.
Well, again, that's why the Syrophoenician woman. I think that Mary's faith is not yet full, and when she comes to him, her concerns are not malicious, but they're somehow, a few degrees off, right? Her azimuth is not correct. And, it's not devastating at the moment, but if you go on 5 years that way, you're going to miss the target completely.
Yeah.
So this is about strengthening her faith, right? And also manifesting himself to the disciples. And so this is the purpose. So it's a legit rebuke. I would say the same thing of the Syrophoenician woman, right? She offers what seems to be, a good prayer, right? My daughter is severely possessed by a demon, but Jesus is, well, that's right, and we'll get there, but there's some things along the way that we need to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so he's testing her faith, and that testing strengthens her faith, but it's painful. And there is a kind of rebuke of some sort in here that her concerns aren't quite right. Mm-hmm. Or they're not like wrong, but they're a little off. I would say with the Syrophoenician woman, I think there's a certain sense in which, she comes with this theologically sophisticated intercession for somebody else, and she has to be sort of reduced down to the point of a beggar that she says, Lord, help me. Mm-hmm. I'm not the selfless mother here, and I only care about this is hurting me. I need help. And I think that is actually a more sophisticated and more faithful prayer than the beginning prayer. So here, I think when she comes to Jesus, and makes this, indirect request, hey, do something about the wine situation, she recognizes his divinity, she recognizes his goodness, and she rightly comes to him in prayer. But it's a better thing that she says, better than that is when she says to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. Because it's not... she told him what she wanted, wine, and that wasn't wrong of her, but now she submits fully to his will. Whatever he says to you, do it. So I think that's the sort of thing. And then, so, in terms of the internal dialogue, when she makes this great confession, then he says, okay, well, I'm going to give them wine, but I'm going to give them wine in a way that destroys the purification jars and establishes the new covenant. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving them, of course, also more than wine. I'm doing more than staving off their embarrassment that they're poor. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay. So did you read Luther?
I did.
See, it's like a 3-part structure.
Right.
The first part, comfort for married people. The second part, faith and love. And then the spiritual meaning of the wedding. The whole thing is allegorized.
Well, I mean, it is, but okay. So the first part is really he just goes off on the fact that Jesus shows up at a wedding, and how this shows God's love for holy marriage and support
and that
for it.
It's his own estate that he established it.
Yeah, and it is quite. I mean, it is a really. There's a lot of theological stuff about marriage in here, and about how God works through this.
And so he goes against the Onanists and the Sodomites. Right. Yep. There was one, I can't find it now, and I thought page 241. Oh, I was in the wrong sermon, that's why. Okay, so I thought the most interesting part for me in that whole section was towards the end of it, where he defends the fact that they were drinking and even dancing, he says, and all of this kind of stuff, because a celebration is actually required for a wedding. And he has a paragraph then on moderation. First of all, he says, look, they were doing it the right way, not like the Germans. I loved that too, right? They, of course, were not getting drunk because they weren't like, the filthy Germans in Wittenberg. Gorging and guzzling and carousing and boozing.
I don't know how he knows that, but he knows it. So that was kind of funny. So he's not.
This is they act as if it were a mark of skill or of strength to do a lot of gorging and guzzling.
That's right, in which people do not seek to become cheerful, but to be raving drunk. Well, I've seen this. I mean, not in Wittenberg, but you're right. I mean, this is like, these are like college parties. Yeah. And kind of boasting about drinking. So he's not in any way saying that it's okay to debauchery of any sort, right? Yeah. But at the same time, this event requires celebration and appropriateness. And he, as this paragraph then, what then is moderation? And I thought that this was really hilarious and kind of fascinating that he talks about, well, here's my opinion. A farmer is well adorned if he wears to a wedding clothes that are twice as nice as his normal clothes. Mm-hmm. That's the standard. And then he kind of goes through this. But I just think that I really loved this, that, you actually, he doesn't use this language, but I would say that like reverence for holy marriage requires feasting at a wedding. Yeah. Right? If we believe that God is actually joining two people together in this miraculous union by which life is created and extended into the world, and in which children are raised in the fear and nurture of the Lord, and in which there's actually goodness that overcomes evil, then we should show up for it with the right attitude. And the attitude is celebration, right? And so I was thinking about, I just thought it was great. It's a great defense of holy marriage. It's a great, also though, defense of the concept of feasting and of the necessary use of ceremonies to mark things. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about, I happened to be at a restaurant for lunch yesterday. I was meeting somebody there. I got there a little bit early, and I sat down next to this table with a couple of evangelicals. And I'm wearing my collar, and they're talking about spiritual things pretty loudly. And what they were talking about was what kind of clothes they should wear to church. And one of them must have been a pastor, or I couldn't tell. But they were talking about, the dangers of, obviously, people not dressing up as though they were going to something fancy instead of going to their friend's house. And going to church, so this was just not very long after Christmas. Going to church, if you dress up, then that means you're not comfortable. And so, but then, how casual's too casual, and so there was this, they were taking this like so seriously. And I'm sitting there in a clerical collar,
Yeah.
with my back to them. And I just thought it was such a kind of insane, straining at gnats kind of idiocy that they just couldn't say that because they had created this false standard of the ideal height of Christianity is going to your friend's house. And if I wanted to turn around and say, maybe he's the king, maybe you're going to the king's house, maybe he's not your fishing buddy,
Yeah.
And would that change anything, and so anyway.
I wish you would have said it.
Well, I'm a coward. I didn't want to get into it with him. I just thought it felt like they were baiting me a little bit, But I did. Yeah. They were into the middle of that conversation. They weren't doing it for my sake. It had started before I got there, but it was kind of.
You could have begun like Paul. I see that you are very spiritual people.
That's right.
But what if he's the king?
What if he's the king? Foreign concept.
Yeah. Well, even that word friend is a friend of the king.
Right. That's right.
Right. An advisor.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was just kind of hilarious to me in a way how this was kind of going on. And, I shouldn't be hard on him because I think it was a sincere kind of struggle as they were trying to sort of find the lines. But there was actually no freedom in their attitude. They were worried about getting it wrong. And, because they were like, hey, we don't want to be too fancy, but, shorts are probably not appropriate, cutoffs. And so I'm just, it was crazy. Yeah. Anyway, we should recognize, in fact, that, right, it makes sense. Not that you're going to earn favor with God, obviously, right? And of course, there is a sense in which your clothing doesn't matter to God, but your heart does, and your attitude, and that is expressed in outward ways. So you are going to engage in ceremonies. You are going to choose the clothing that you go to church. I don't know that Luther, I don't even know how to measure, like, what is the unit of measurement to recognize the fanciness of clothes? Because Luther says it should be twice your normal clothes. So if your normal clothes are a 10, then what's a 20? And 10 of what? Fanciness? I don't know what that is. So, but I think the idea.
But you know it when you see it.
Yeah, I think Luther's point is that you shouldn't come to church typically in your normal clothes. Yeah. But Luther would never say you should never come to church in your normal clothes. And right. I think, I was, so it was just funny that I read this morning after hearing this conversation. It's very common around here for people to come to church in their normal clothes on weekdays. Mm-hmm. And some people do on Sunday too, and nobody cares, nobody judges them. So at the same time, I think there's just an awareness that, I don't know, I would be surprised around here, and I don't think they're doing it in a works righteous way. I would be surprised if they would come to Christmas Eve service in their normal clothes. Mm-hmm. I think they would make a conscious, deliberate effort to think about what they were wearing to church for Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And probably they're going to put on fancier clothes than they would for a normal Sunday, and certainly for a weekday. And I think that should actually be encouraged as part of fasting and bodily preparation.
Yeah.
And I have actually used the wedding thing before on people. That sure. I have said to people, just when they ask about what's appropriate, it's look, nobody cares. That really is true. Nobody does care, but you're asking because you care, and that's appropriate, and you should care. And so what I usually just say is, I actually like that line of, what would you wear to a wedding? I mean, if you were going to go to your coworker's wedding, would you wear blue jeans to it? And if you say yes to that, then I think that's probably perfectly appropriate clothing for a Sunday morning worship service, right? But if you would dress up for a wedding, if you wouldn't wear blue jeans to a wedding because that's not the kind of family you grew up in, then you probably shouldn't wear blue jeans to church.
Yeah. Lauren has this thing that there has to be a tie.
See, there you go.
She's like, it's a slippery slope once you lose the tie.
Fine. I think that's a fine rule for her. She's obviously, and for your family, she's obviously not imposing. Jackie, actually, I didn't even know this until about maybe 10 years ago. Jackie has never worn pants to church on a Sunday or a feast day. And I wasn't even aware of it.
Dresses or skirts, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, obviously I just don't pay. I couldn't believe it when she told me that. She's like, I've never worn pants to church. I'm like, what? Never?
Yeah.
So, good for her. I don't know if our daughter, I bet she wears pants to church. It's not a rule that she's inflicting on other people,
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, you don't want to inflict it on other people.
Right.
But if it raises the bar for others, that'd be okay too.
Yeah. And, it is, I like it, I like it when the children show up dressed up. I mean, it's fun. Yeah. It's cute and it is festive. And, so there is a kind of public service in it in that sense, or the women wear, the fancy hats at Easter. I mean, there is a kind of, I enjoy that. I mean, I'm not wearing the hats, but I enjoy seeing them. And I think it does elevate the whole experience.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my favorite part of the marriage stuff. And
I did like his bit about how marriage isn't easy and that it's not an accident.
Yeah.
That everything that belongs to God's word and work is burdensome to the old Adam. And so marriage becomes a school of faith and love, a training ground for Christians on how to endure affliction while trusting in God's goodness. So that then he explains, like, the miracle becomes comfort, that Christ doesn't remove the water or the affliction, but he transforms it into wine according to his word.
Right.
And so he doesn't eliminate suffering, but he sweetens it. And I think that's a great image of the Christian life, right? That God doesn't remove our afflictions, but he does sweeten them with his word and promise.
Right. Well, sometimes he creates the...
Yeah, well, right. Well, he created marriage.
Right. And he creates the crosses that, we have to bear.
Yeah.
I also was going to point out, there's a nice promise here he makes that he claims that by showing up at the wedding, Christ shows that he wants to supply what is lacking in marriage by giving wine when it ran out and making it out of water. That, this is, I think, something too that we need to say, right? That there is a promise for holy marriage, and that while holy marriage, does have seasons of difficulty, I think without exception, there is a promise of companionship, right? The purpose of holy marriage, the primary purpose of holy marriage, along with procreation, is companionship. And there is a joy in actually living with and for another person. And we should be seeking joy in our marriages. And that's not an unrealistic goal or desire or unholy. And it is possible to cultivate joy and to see this as a fulfillment. So,
yeah. Well, that's the paragraph where he says, do you have to drink water, that is, suffer affliction outwardly, which makes things bitter for you? Well, I will make it sweet for you and change the water into wine so that your affliction will be your joy and delight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will not do this by taking the water away or having it poured out. It is to remain, but I will first add to it and make it full to the brim. I will not rid Christian marriage of affliction, but rather load it up.
Yeah, it's marvelous.
Yeah, I mean, it is marvelous, and this is how he's going to supply what is lacking.
Right. And so the sort of season of difficulty and of affliction is not eternal, and not even, in its temporality, it will wax and wane. Mm-hmm. And there will be, so, when you're in the midst of the bad stuff, it feels like it's never going to end, and it's tempting to forget the good. I mean, probably every marriage counselor ever, whether professional or not, anyone who's ever given sort of counsel to somebody who's struggling in marriage, like one of the most common things is to say, well, why did you marry this person? Remember how you loved her? Why? Yeah. And it's often they'll be like, well, it's funny how people their current afflictions and sorrows will change their memories to false memories. And they'll say, well, I didn't really. I mean, I knew it was a mistake. There were warnings, whatever, this kind of doubting of those things. And I think, we have to say to those people, no, that's not true. Not that there wasn't anybody who maybe didn't say this is a bad idea to marry her. But look, God joined you together, and you actually did believe and felt in your heart, at that time, that this was good and that she was beautiful and that you wanted to be with her. And she did give you joy. And, don't believe the lies in your own head. Mm-hmm. And those days can come back.
Yeah. And sometimes when, you're talking, I mean, we are different creatures, men and women.
Yes.
Right? We approach things very differently. And, there are times when your spouse is talking to you and you're like, where are you going with this? What are you talking about? But if you just hang on and be a little curious, like you get to the point, and then it all makes sense. And then you've understood, like, sometimes I feel like I'm spending my life trying to understand her.
Yeah.
And there's certainly times where that's frustrating to me, but at the end of it, like, there's joy that I've learned a little bit more about her.
Right. Oh, I don't want to give away too much of my own horrible things here, but
I mean, it's just, we're different. And that's different. Not bad. We're just different.
Well, and I think it's just so, it's good that we're different. I mean, this is the whole, because we're called to love the other, hetero, not the same. We're called we're called outside of ourselves and to sacrifice ourselves. And I think that, just because your wife she wants to talk about things that you don't find interesting. And it's just so incredibly shallow and selfish to say that out loud. And then, this is not going to be a shock to anybody, but I mean, the things that Jackie wants to talk about that aren't interesting to me are usually people, like her hairdresser and her hairdresser's children and whatever. And I mean, I just am not, but but she is. And I actually think God bless her for that. Like, that's endearing. Yeah. She actually is good. She's actually, kind and patient and it's so there is something, I think, and rather than seeing it as boring, to see it as endearing, when the grandchildren want to tell me about their Barbie dolls, I'm not annoyed by that, because I recognize that they're interested in them and they love them. And when Jackie wants to talk about things, she's not talking about trivial things like Barbie dolls that bore me. Mm-hmm. I'm the one that wants to bring up trivial things, sports and, different stuff. So there's a great rebuke there. But I also think you're exactly right. There's a great endearment there that I'm actually being offered something good conversationally.
Yeah.
So,
and we don't see the opportunity there.
No, because we're just bored and I want to get onto my own stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But that is the goodness of this other, though, is exposed. Yeah. And I'm sure, I can't think of it. I mean, I know it goes the other way too, Of course.
Yeah, but they're better at it than we are.
Well, I mean, on this particular thing, they definitely.
In some ways, they're better at that.
Yeah, because they're, of course they are, because they're nurturers. God made them. Their kindness is their strength, and men do have to be a little bit colder because to do some of the things that we're required to do it, and a little more analytical. And that's needed, but there's a weakness, and we need women desperately to civilize us, to temper us, and but there are other things that they're not as good at. Things that require a little bit, like disciplining children. I mean, it's a spectrum, and there's exceptions, but typically, right, women are not as good at disciplining the children because they're too soft. Yeah. Because their nurture instinct goes too far. And so they need men to bring, the steel. But then, of course, that can go really bad, and men can be stupidly extreme, and they need to be, again, tempered by the compassion and mercy of women so that they don't kill their children.
Right. Luther's second section, Faith and Love, kind of expounds the inner spiritual drama that divine grace comes only to the needy.
Yeah.
I'm curious it's not anything new per se, but within the context of the sermon or of the text, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I was struck by Luther's framing it in terms of lack. I thought was interesting. Where the lack is felt, right? Then God, so God causes there to be something missing, and then causes you to feel it, and then makes it worse.
Yeah, he delays.
Delays, so that you would come to him, and then he's not going to give it to you right away, right? Because he's going to delay, test our faith, and trust, as he does here. And I thought what really so this is, I always think of Augustine's definition of evil as being not a real thing, but always a lack, right? So poverty is not a thing, it's a lack of thing. It's a lack of wealth. Hunger is not a thing, it's a lack of proper nourishment, right? All that kind of stuff. War is the lack of peace, so forth. So here, I don't know if Luther has this in mind, but, when he says when a lack is felt, he's actually talking about enduring evil. I mean, if we're thinking in Augustine, it's not like, well, it's just that there's not enough wine and, I'm full, but I would enjoy more. I mean, he's framing this as really actually and then I was sort of, anyway, so I thought that was interesting because the sort of what is needed for faith to endure in this is hope, right? To a willingness to suffer evil and believe that God is good and is bringing us through it, right? That's, in a sense, what hope is. And that is so often what we're unwilling to suffer any evils, any injustices, any lacks, whether that's happiness in marriage or, a stimulating sermon in our congregations or, these are the things we're lacking, and we're just chafing under them and becoming angry rather than having a willingness to suffer it and to believe that God is good and is providing nonetheless.
I mean, do you think there's something so it's verse 3 says, they ran out of wine. Jesus' mother says, they have no wine. Do you think that this couple were overly scrupulous in not wanting people to drink too much?
Oh, that is really, and boy, that'd be a good antinomian sermon. Along with
I guess what I mean is
no,
there
like
a corrective here that Jesus is saying, okay, I can provide the joy because that's my job.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
no, I like it. I think, it's interesting. Did they run out of wine on purpose in a way? And was their lack of wine a legalism?
Yeah.
I've never thought of that, but I don't think it's an impossible sort of thing. And if her embarrassment then that changes the embarrassment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it would also color, because I like the idea that these water pots are no good anymore after they have wine in them. Right? They've been stained. They've been, you can't use them anymore. And so there is this sort of, that would kind of go along with that.
Well, I mean, in all of his other miracle, like his provision miracles, there's always more.
Yeah.
I mean, they eat to their fill, till they're satisfied. And that doesn't mean like gorging and guzzling, as Luther says. But maybe there was only enough provided because they were so scrupulous that they didn't want anyone to do too much.
Well, I wondered if it was, when you first started saying that, if it was they only had enough for the guests and there wasn't any wine for them. What if they means the couple?
Oh.
Or whether it was because the guests were rude or because there wasn't enough or a mistake was made. But, it's like it's time for the champagne toast and whoop, there isn't anything.
Yeah, we have no reference for the they there, do we?
Right. So, but that would change it, wouldn't it? So, like they ran out of wine, and then the mother's like, "Wait, hey, it's time for the toast," and the couple doesn't have any wine. What if that's what she's saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if I would want to.
I don't either. Write a sermon
on it, but
it's helpful to sort of think through these things in sort of recognizing what does Scripture actually say? What are sort of the possibilities? We got find where the lines are, the boundaries. So anyway, that idea that this is a lack, and that of course this is right again exposing the reality so that we would come to the source of all comfort.
Yeah.
Right.
And then his third part is on the spiritual meaning of the wedding.
Yeah. And that's where he's very explicitly allegorical.
Allegorical, right.
Right. The servants that fill the wine pots are the ministers, the stone pots themselves are the law. Yeah, all that stuff.
Cana, zeal, Galilee, border.
That's a weird one. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't love his allegories as much in this section as much as I usually do. There's no sacramental stuff in this sermon. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
There's no idea that water here has anything to do with baptism or wine has anything to do with Holy Communion.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a shame. I think the fact that it's wine is significant, and I mean related to the reality that that's the substance that is used for the Lord's Supper. So I think the essence of wine that informs the Lord's Supper is related to this miracle. The substance of wine matters, that it is about, making glad the hearts of men. It is about its antiseptic reality.
Yeah.
It is about feasting.
I know, but it's still early on. It's 1525. So, I mean, sometimes I give people the benefit of the doubt on, so what is he going to focus on? Like, he's looking at a congregation, the people of Wittenberg, what do they need to know?
Sure.
What do they need to be taught about? And I think that kind of exercise, too, could be helpful for us to step back and say, okay, well, we've been at places for a particular amount of time. I might want to talk about the water of baptism or the wine of the Lord's Supper, but what do they need to actually hear about?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really criticizing it. I was just.
No, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean that as a rebuke to you, but I think sometimes we would have expectations because we think people already know that, and maybe Luther is pointing us to a direction to say, don't be so sure that they know what you think they know.
Yeah. Well, I think I think a lot of Lutheran preachers have used this in our context to defend the goodness of wine, right? Against teetotalers or the Methodists, right? And that doesn't come up at all because there is no teetotalers in Germany.
Yeah. Ever.
Today, that's a statement from right. World without end. But
yes.
I mean, certainly at Luther's time, there's no thought to that. The idea that wine is unhealthy, and so yeah, I mean, I think there is a kind of contextual reality there. But anyway, that is a direction. I think a sacramental.
Sure.
That this does inform in some ways, right? The Christ. I mean, you do have the whole. I mean, that water to wine, wine to blood progression, which seems to sort of also in a way come full circle with the blood and the water coming out of his side.
Yeah.
There are connections. They're legitimate, and yeah.
I mean, you even get that too with Jesus' baptism.
Oh yeah.
So is there a sense in which he's expounding on the Spirit?
Well, right. I mean, that's the thing.
That's the third witness.
Right. And also, this connection in the Old Testament of wine and the Holy Spirit, as the bringer of joy. And yeah, I mean, it's so rich. And
that would be the word of God, right? This would be the thing.
Right. But even the fact this is on the third day, that there's a wedding in Cana of Galilee. I like to, I like that it's, we don't know where Cana is. Like Cana doesn't exist in archaeology. It's the only place it's ever mentioned in John's gospel. I mean, the 2 times, but I kind of like that, this isn't in Jerusalem, Herod's daughter getting married. This isn't some great social event. This is what the whole world would look upon as insignificant. Oh, and in fact, Luther says something about that that I think I had underlined about this this thing about, the world doesn't maybe that's in that first part with the marriage stuff, right? The world doesn't see this as a significant reality, but it matters to God. Mm-hmm. And this is the way that the war is being won and order and creation are being restored. And it starts with marriage.
So what do you think you're going to want to take up?
I think maybe the moderation stuff. This sort of.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to yours then, if that's what you're going to do.
I'm not known for moderation.
No, I just it'd be fun to hear what you do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like what Luther does with it because it's funny when he talks about moderation. He ends up talking about feasting, even though he's like, well, what's moderation? Because we know, it's not getting drunk, and then it turns out moderation is feasting, but feasting.
Yeah, because he's like. Luther puts it this way at one of these points. He's like, as long as they're in moderation and correspond to a wedding. So moderation corresponds to a setting. Right. So there's a moderation appropriate to this, and there's a moderation appropriate to that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. The moderation you would show before battle, with what you eat and drink, would be different than the moderation you show here. And it's an argument about reverence and, kind of what's
is this setting, would that set the stage for Lent?
Well, that's what I was thinking. This is, we're about to come into the fasting season, but the fasting, we're often saying, feasting doesn't make any sense without fasting. And that's true. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem because we kind of know feasting, but not fasting. But the opposite is true also. Maybe not the opposite, but the reverse, right? That is that fasting doesn't make any sense if we're not feasting.
Yeah.
And so, have we I don't know, you could be.
I mean, Luther distinguishes feasting from gorging and guzzling.
Right. That's right.
So I'm inclined to think that we're more into the gorging and guzzling.
Exactly. So let's talk about what proper feasting is and how it goes wrong. It can go wrong with gorging and whatever the other word was, guzzling.
Guzzling.
It could also go wrong by a refusal of what's offered. So maybe, when you're at the kid's birthday party and they offer you a piece of cake, you shouldn't say, no, I'm on a diet. You should eat a little bit of it. Right. This is, maybe we need to kind of find the appropriate response for the event without gorging and guzzling, but also without a kind of stridency that lacks kindness, or a kind of, a kind of self-righteousness that is more concerned about physical health and appearance than enjoying the gifts in front of us, right? Where are the boundaries here? Am I fasting to train my soul, or am I fasting to have a nice physique? I'm not against there being physical benefits to these things, but we do want to consider the state of the heart, and we do want to respond in a way that's appropriate to the joy that's in front of us. Do we know? It's sort of, I just thought of this. I'm going to write this down. I wonder if there's a correspondence in sort of how to take a compliment, right? Like, it's really hard for people to take compliments, and, we need to learn how to do that. And to not make it worse, just because we feel awkward. And maybe there's a similar sort of thing where we need to learn how to take a piece of cake or have a drink without getting drunk. And we need to learn to enjoy these things appropriately.
Well, I'm excited to see what you come up with.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it could be, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. You may change your mind by then.
I may not even be preaching that day. I don't know.
Good. Any final thoughts? Anything that you'd want to point out that we haven't pointed out yet?
I would, but I'm going to save it for next year.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thanks for your time, Dave.